Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. We have finished week 2 of the preseason as the New York Giants and New York Jets faced off on Saturday night. The Giants took the victory 31-12. Really beginning to end, the Giants were the sharper team. They had the better performances. They had more quarterbacks who could play well. And all in all, it was certainly a step down for the New York Jets compared to week 1 against the Packers. Overall, I'm not overly concerned about the performance from the Jets. I thought the first team offense, although they struggled throwing the ball, and we'll get to that in a minute with Justin Fields, they ran the ball very well. The offensive line looked good. They handled that front four of the Giants decently well and found some production. Braylon Allen looked good, almost 5 yards a carry. Wanwu had a nice performance, 6 for 31. Breece Hall looked fine. Then, as we saw on the defense as well as the offense, once you got to those third and fourth stringers, there was a pretty big difference in performance. But if you look in that first quarter, I really am not going to freak out about how the Jets looked. Did I wish that Justin Fields would throw more than 5 times and do better than 1 for 5 for 4 yards? Of course. I think he had a couple opportunities to set up screenplays that got broken up because there was some pressure and he just didn't throw accurate balls. All in all, I think the bigger concern is where you look at some depth in some places for this team. The Giants have 4 quarterbacks who should be on rosters in the NFL, and the Jets last night had 1.5. Justin Fields is truly a starting quarterback, or most likely a starting quarterback in this league for a good amount of time. And I did think that Adrian Martinez looked very good, but the story's not been written on whether he will have any sort of career in the NFL. But overall, if you look at some of the positives, it seems like there's been some differentiation in the returners on this team. I think Wanwu really settled into that role, had a good return to start things off. I think he is pretty clearly ahead of Xavier Gipson, who I think Gipson is really playing himself off of this team. Really no presence whatsoever in the passing game. And on his return opportunity, he runs right into a blocker. Again, going for some of the positives, I thought that the running game looked good. That offensive line for the Jets is going to be a strength. They were dominating the front four and getting a lot of push and being able to move the ball. They did that both in the first quarter and then also in pass protection in that drive under 2 minutes to get some points at the end of the half. I thought that was very positive. Braylon Allen, he converts on a couple of short yardage situations. Wish they would have punched in for 6 at some point, but overall, he looked very legitimate. The rest of the running backs, I think, struggled after that. Breece Hall was fine. Like I said, he had a couple explosive moves at the line of scrimmage, couldn't really break one off. And, for a guy like Donovan Edwards, who was trying to really stake his claim to a 53-man roster spot, he certainly struggled. But sticking with the positives on this one, the kicking game, McNamara, basically perfect game from a punter, everything within 20 yards, 3 punts within the 10-yard line. Nick Folk looks very steady kicking the ball as their kicker. I think that's going to be your special teams contingent. They're going to be the ones doing the kicking duties on this team. And Adrian Martinez, listen, he, comes out of Kansas State. He then, goes to the UFL. He's on the Jets practice squad last year. He threw an interception that was him trying to make a play. He scrambles out of the pocket. He's at the sideline, and he makes a mistake that a young quarterback will make. He throws across his body behind him, and sure enough, it's picked off. But that end of the half possession where he drives down the field and gets some points was really impressive. If he doesn't make the bad decision to complete a pass in the middle of the field with no timeouts left, so they're forced to spike it and kick the field goal, maybe they score 7 there. But all in all, I thought he looked very, very good. And also on the defensive side, a rookie, Dean Clark, comes through, has a pass breakup. He also then has an interception. He looked very, very strong. He had a sack as well, and the pass breakup and the sack were in the red zone, and then also gets the tipped interception in the end zone. So that's one rookie who stood out. I think Brandon Smith, who got a lot of targets in this game, looked very promising. I think also, you got to look at Quentin Skinner, who has an amazing touchdown catch. And these are the young wide receivers who should be getting opportunities ahead of Gibson and ahead of Corley and ahead of Lazard. So the good, definitely the running game for parts of the game. The kicking was great. Skinner and Dean Clark looked good. And I thought Adrian Martinez looked like a confident quarterback. That does not look like a guy when you see some of the third and fourth stringers in this league playing in the preseason where they can't even figure out how to read a defense. They can't get the ball out of their hands. They're making really awkward plays. Martinez looks confident. Martinez looks like a guy who's supposed to be there. So it'll be interesting to see if the Jets bring in a veteran, but I'm sorry. There's no world in which you can tell me that Tim Boyle is a better quarterback than Adrian Martinez. It's just not true. And Martinez, I think, has deserved the opportunity to be the backup for Justin Fields if Tyrod Taylor is not available. The bad, definitely the defensive line. I think the run defense wasn't too great. The defensive line was the standout, and Leonard Taylor and Jay Tufele were no-shows in this game. Their presence was not really felt at all. The running game for the Giants averaged just under 4 yards per carry, but they did have 3 rushing touchdowns, all, within short yardage. But they let a couple of big plays from Tyrone Tracy happen, but also there were some screen passes that broke out for big yardage because the defensive line wasn't getting to the point of attack very well. And they also didn't really put any pressure on the team. They did have 2 sacks on the day, but Jackson Dart has almost a perfect game, 14 of 16 for 137 yards. Winston throws for 110 on only 6 completions. Russell Wilson has a huge pass for 80 yards to Bo Collins over Cisco's head, and, that sets up a scoring opportunity. DeVito came in through a pick. That wasn't fully his fault, but overall, the defensive line did not get much pressure. They did not really make their presence known. And I think it was disappointing when they could have had an opportunity to really stake their claim to these starting positions to, could Tufele be the defensive tackle who plays next to Quinnen Williams week 1? We still have a lot to see from this group. They have more opportunities to make a name for themselves. I'm not saying to overreact after one game, but it would have been nice to see them step up more in this situation. The other one that's unfortunate is Donovan Edwards. Donovan Edwards got opportunities to return kicks. They really tried to get him the ball in both the passing game and the running game. They went out of their way to give him opportunities. 8 carries, 21 yards. I know he's running against the backup offensive line, but he's also playing against backup defensive linemen and linebackers. Did not have much of an opportunity to shine there. He did have 1 catch for 7 yards, but his return game looked really weak, and he's still learning. He's still getting reps. I'm not saying he's definitely not going to make the team, but this definitely took a big hit for his opportunity to make the team. Now, here's where I think the real concern could be for this Jets team. And listen, we've been saying it over and over. If this Jets team is going to win 9-10 games and, really surprise the league, it's going to happen because they're a top running team in the league. They've made it very clear. They ran the ball 40 times in the first game. They ran the ball 33 times in the second preseason game. When most teams are airing it out and trying to get their pass offense lined up, they have shown top to bottom on the depth chart, they're going to try to run the ball. With that said, we need to see Justin Fields take chances downfield. And so far in his 2 games, his average air yards per attempt is about 3.5 yards. And it's a lot of the stuff we talked about last year with Aaron Rodgers, where there's just no attack downfield. Eric Wilson is really great close to the line of scrimmage, but also he's someone who can make damage downfield. We're going to want to see some threat of throwing the ball deep, and that has not been the case. And from all reports in camp, that has not been the case in camp really either. So Justin Fields did make a comment about that after the game and said, he was thinking on the sideline how he has to throw the ball downfield more. And I would say, yes, I think it's time for you to show you can throw it downfield. Arian Smith, who had, 39 yards on 2 catches and should have had another one, but had a defensive pass interference that wasn't called when he came back for a catch. Again, he's looked pretty good minus the drop he had last night. he's a speedster. He's a deep threat. He could take the top off of a defense, but you have to show that you're willing to make those types of passes. What's going to happen in the NFL very quickly is they're going to get a read on Fields that, hey, he's only going to scramble or dump the ball off or do quick slants. He's going to throw some screen passes. Great. We're going to pack the box, 8 men in the box. We're not going to give you an opportunity to run the ball. And then, you're going to be forced to do things that maybe you're not comfortable with because you haven't been trying it out in the preseason or in practice. So that was the ugliest part of the game for me. I'm not saying Fields was terrible. He had some pressure in his face on a screen pass that, did not go his way. Thibodeau beat Membu really badly. It led to a high throw. And then the bad screen pass to Garrett Wilson, it was bad, overall. There's nothing from that tape that's going to make you feel great about Justin Fields. I doubt he'll play in game 3. So now there's a question mark going into game 1 of what will this offense look like? Besides, hey, they're going to pound the ball, they're going to run the ball a lot. Are we going to see Justin Fields open it at all week 1? I think the play calling has been really good for the Jets in the preseason, but that's my biggest concern going into week 1 is that Justin Fields is not throwing the ball downfield. Another ugly moment, the long 80-yard pass goes over the head of Andre Cisco. I said this in one of the first episodes. Cisco is a high-risk, high-reward safety. It's why the safety playing next to him needs to be someone who's a sure tackler. He's supposed to be protecting the middle of the field. He creeps way too far over because it's a slow-developing playoff play action, and then he's got a guy running behind him. He does make the tackle, but only after he was beat. And there are going to be moments this year in the regular season where Cisco is going to be a guy that I'm going to be sitting in my section at MetLife Stadium cursing his name because he's just shown that he makes mistakes like that. Now, he'll make big plays. He can attack at the line of scrimmage. He's going to go up and make an interception. He's a threat on defense, but you're going to have to live with these types of plays. Another defensive player who was really unfortunate to watch was Zaire Barnes. He should not be looking like a third, fourth stringer on this team. He got pushed around on that one pass that led to an almost touchdown, in the second half. He then misses a play that leads to a touchdown. It was a really poor performance for Zaire Barnes. I was pretty surprised to see him look, just so slow. So yeah, that was a real problem. And to me, those were the two ugliest parts, the pass offense, the pass defense. And again, the Giants, for some reason, have crazy depth at quarterback. There's rumors now that Jameis Winston might be traded because it looks like Dart can certainly be the backup for the Giants this year. And they already have Tommy DeVito. There's no reason why you should have 4 quarterbacks on your team that can play, and putting DeVito on the practice squad is really a waste of him. He's shown he can step up and be a third stringer. But with that said, that led to maybe some of the mishaps on the third and fourth string defense for the Jets because they're playing more quality quarterback play than they're used to playing in the preseason. But that just tells you they're not ready to play in the regular season at all. So yeah, so that was the good, the bad, the ugly from this game against the Giants. Some other things of note, Brandon Smith, like I said, got a lot of good looks. He got a lot of targets. I think it needs to be a situation where Smith and Skinner and Pritchett have an opportunity to make this team. And Malachi Corley's done. Again, another no-show from him. Corley should not be on this roster. He was a third-round pick, and he's been a waste. And it's a shame, but you can't carry dead weight like that on the team. Gibson, has not done enough to become the returner on this team, and he gives you nothing on offense. And Lazard may start, on injured reserve, which would buy them a little bit of time. But if he's healthy enough to play, then you either got to move him or you got to cut him, because he would just be taking up a spot where these other young players who might break out and be something would be clogged up behind him. If the Jets are going to carry 7 wide receivers, should Lazard, Gibson, and Corley be on this team? Absolutely not. And the one thing I didn't mention yet that might have been the play of the whole entire game and is now getting a lot of extra life on Jets Twitter, Abdul Carter, who is a beast. That guy is going to step in right away and likely be a premier pass rusher. But in New York in particular, you need to have a thicker skin. For him to come out and complain that he didn't actually get hit really hard by Stone Smart and, Stone Smart upended him on a chip block. And if you haven't seen it for some reason, go ahead and watch the film. He gets totaled by Stone Smart. And then he comes out and his exact tweet might be the only highlight of the Jets all season, arrow pointing down to the video that was put out by the NFL. And we put BTA, I'm pretty sure he's saying that he whooped the Jets. Weak blank chip ate that MF like barbecue. I don't know if you normally eat barbecue with your back on the ground like that, but that does not look like someone who ate a block. And the big picture is, first off, you're talking trash between the Jets and Giants, two of the worst franchises of the last 10 years. The Giants are coming off their worst season of all time. Hey, by the way, the last time the Giants beat the Jets, Barack Obama was still in office. So for you to try to talk trash off of a preseason game like this, only because you're going viral for getting blocked so hard, that just shows you've got really thin skin. But in the NFL today, unless you have really strong leadership or a really great coach, guys like Carter aren't going to stop doing that. It's just going to happen. And listen, the Jets have had their own tweets this offseason, Breece Hall's cryptic tweets, and Sauce Gardner's very famously gotten himself in trouble online. But, Abdul Carter with a real Streisand effect tweet by taking a play that went a little viral because he got hit hard. I saw Barstool tweet it out like you can't ask Lawrence Taylor for his number if you're going to get hit like this. But with the Streisand effect, as we know, you then bring more light to it and try to defend it or try to play it off as not something that's big. And then you're going to go viral on Twitter even more. And Jets Twitter, we're a sassy bunch and we're not going to let much slip by us. And I think Abdul Carter's learning the hard way that maybe don't come out a team fan base on Twitter in week 2 of the preseason when your team won 3 last year. So looking forward, another week of practice. The Jets play the defending champion Eagles on Friday at MetLife Stadium. It's the Jets' only home preseason game before they open week 1 and 2 at home at MetLife Stadium. Do not expect to see a lot of starters in that game, but it is the last chance for folks trying to make the 53-man roster to stake their claim to the team. So overall, it'll be a noisy week, I would expect, based on how Justin Fields looked and how the offense looked. I think you're going to see some complaints from Jets fans. I can expect the Jets media to really get into it this week as they look to see how the starters look in practice. But we only have one more dress rehearsal before we really start things, and that is, as we know, week 1, MetLife Stadium, Aaron Rodgers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers coming to town. We're getting real close. I'm getting very excited about it. This has been episode 5 of the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. Thank you so much for listening.